Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forgetting Walls. I'm Keith.
I'm Justin.
And today we have another special guest with us. I would say just our good friend, Robbie Bolin. Say hello, everybody.
Hey, guys. Glad to have me on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So, this week, we're going to get into some interesting topics, I believe. Especially one. We'll just hold off on the subject of topic until it's time for a little meat and potatoes.
All right.
Yeah.
And
so,
onions.
And what would you say?
And onions.
Onions. Well, do you like onions, Justin?
Oh, I love onions.
Okay.
Potato and onions.
Meat, potatoes, and onions. So this week we're going to add a little onions.
All right, a little bit.
Yeah,
variety up here.
Robbie's the onions. He brings layers. Brings the layers, Mr. Shrek, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get started, Robbie. Most people might not know you. Tell a little bit about yourself. About yourself.
All right, well, I'm Robbie. And always got to add this in.
Know. Yeah.
Always got to add this in. I'm an Eagle Scout. And right now I'm studying youth ministry at North Greenville University.
Woo.
In South Carolina, for all those North Carolina people. Greenville, South Carolina. Broke your pen.
I just broke my pen.
I saw that happen, too.
Oh, my God.
Got saved when I was 16.
Yeah,
And
I
Myrtle
remember that.
Beach in Dirty Myrtle.
I remember that.
Yeah. And around 17, 18 is when I felt the call for youth ministry. So
out of the ordinary, we have 3 whole Christian guests or Christian people on today. No Jack this week, so it won't be a lot of back and forth on non-Christian topics. But man, I want to say last week, Robbie, you really should go back and listen to last week's episode. It was actually probably one of our better episodes.
Yeah, I think so too.
I hate the fact that, when you're in the moment of doing what I've realized is I've listened to podcasts now, and outside the guys who are professional podcasters, which we're not, who are all,
by any means.
Yeah, they're all prepped and planned, and they got all this stuff wrote out in their timeline and guides and all stuff. So, but the other guys I listen to, I'm like, man, Bad Christian, Church Planter Podcast, I think even the guys over at Reform Pubcast too, just some examples. They kind of flow with their topics, and they get a guy on or a guest on, and they're just talking, and they're back and forth. I realized how hard it is to actually have real good, spontaneous thought that actually puts that brings the conversation back and forth without missing the question or missing the topic. Because I know Jack's going to listen to this because Jack always listens. I mean, our atheist agnostic friends listens to the episode more than our Christian friend over here. No, Robbie's busy at school. We understand. No, if we don't pick on people that we bring on, then it's no fun. But I know he'll listen this weekend. Man, yeah. I missed some questions he asked last week. I kind of I started to answer them, and then I went, of course, totally. We're not forgetting walls. We're forgetting questions here.
Oh, absolutely.
But I went back and listened to the episode, and I was talking to Justin yesterday. I said, hey, man. I think I could have done a better job answering those questions last week if I was thinking a little bit, clearer. Because there was just a lot of stuff we talked about. I'm like, what about this? And what about that? And, he said this, and I didn't think about this perspective. So next time we get him on, we'll do it again.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
So outside of that, Justin.
Yeah.
New job.
Yeah, that's
How's
right.
the new job?
It's going well.
Yeah?
Still delivering cookies.
Delivering cookies.
Yeah, Rob, so I got a job. If you listen to the podcast, you know that.
Yes. I forgot why you're to just interrupt you.
Yeah, go for it.
We do have a fourth guest on today. We've had him on for about 3 weeks now, but we've never introduced him. It's my squeaky chair.
Squeaky chair.
So anytime Squeaky Chair speaks, we're trying to be louder than he is. Anyways, so how is the new job? How is the cookie delivery job going?
It's going pretty well. Spring break, at least for App, is this week, so
Right.
Hours have been kind of cut back, and I got off at work really early yesterday. So we'll see how this weekend goes. So,
Okay.
but yeah, other than that, it's good. I have a lot of stories of delivering to.
Oh my
some
gosh,
interesting people.
We would definitely need to talk about delivering stories, especially in the beginning of the podcast when we need a good funny story, Justin, and that should be like totally left in your lap.
Cookie delivery stories.
Cookie delivery stories. Maybe we just add a segment in during the week. Weird cookie deliveries.
There's a lot of them.
You know, you guys talk about deliverance.
Yeah, I was going to say, that may be something you should think about, Robbie, getting a little franchise branch down there at NGU, because, they sound like they do pretty well up at that.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, they do really well.
Yeah, they deliver cookies and milk.
Yep. And brownies.
And brownies.
They probably wouldn't get out of my hands.
I didn't say you should be the delivery guy. I should just say you should help get the franchise down there. Because I've already thought about it. I was like, man, we should have one down here at the beach. Tourist, late night.
Yeah.
Want some cookies and milk? Don't want to leave the house and go to Lowe's and get it? We'll deliver them fresh baked cold milk. Man, I'm telling you what. Anyways, outside of that, Justin, how was the rest of your week?
It was good. Just long. Trying to plan for the future because I graduate in December. So I was looking at different things I might be doing afterward. Grad school, stuff like that, whether or not I want to do that, whether I want to do internship or what. So don't shake your head at me.
I'm already planning your future for you, so don't worry about it.
No, okay. Good to know. It's like you have God predestining everything, and then lower level Keith predestining my future.
Keith's not, it's different than predestining because there's a certain amount of reform theology that I kind of buck against, and I don't believe in predestining somebody's future to business and things like that. So I just feel it's less predestining and just mapping out.
Gotcha.
So you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, good to know.
We're going to go ahead and get Forgetting Walls off the ground. We're going to get this. We're going to work on our magazine and try to get that off the ground. And so an income based in, we're just going to hire Justin to do everything I'm not doing because we're only going to have 2 employees right now.
So you can do your internship underneath Keith.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, because right now it's free. Justin just doesn't realize what he's got himself into.
Yep.
Don't worry, we're branching out, Robbie. Also with Robbie on the show today, gives us a chance to talk about music as well. We love talking about music.
Absolutely.
And of course the stuff, that more fits our genre sets, like, with Robbie and myself and Justin, our little burning ones arise. I know a lot of people listening to the show is like, what is going on down there right now?
Worship.
Yeah, worship music, man.
There we go.
Oh, by the way, did you get to see the picture did I send you that picture of the shirt or the tank top that Robbie sent me?
Oh.
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, instead of saying you listen to Christian heavy metal music,
Yeah.
I listen to double pedal
Jesus metal.
Jesus. Oh, I love it. I love it.
My youngest daughter had come back from somewhere or something. I saw her after I got home from work. I was like, you got to see this shirt. And I was like, look, this is what we listen to. And she likes hardcore music too. And I was like, we listen to double pedal Jesus metal. And she's like, yes.
Nice.
I have now got my I can define my music better now.
You know where I found that shirt? I was listening to For Today's new music video.
Yeah.
What's that song? They brought in that other guy.
Oh, Matty Mullins.
Break the cycle.
Break the cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude's wearing that in the Break the Cycle, and I saw it.
Yeah,
and
Matty Mullins. was in it, though, right? Is that the one
Yeah.
with Matty Mullins?
It sounds like it.
I'm
Sounds
pretty,
right.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you saw. I
That's where I saw the
seen the
t-shirt.
video. I didn't see that though. I must not have been paying attention.
Yeah, I was reading through the comments, and anyone was like, "Did anybody see the Jesus double pedal Jesus metal shirt?" And I was like, "I did see that. Is that what?" I just like I couldn't read it all.
Yeah,
But he was like, "That's what it says." So
That's
I
cool.
Looked it up.
that's cool.
Nice.
It's a Corpus Christi shirt.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Haven't listened to much Corpus Christi though. Have you?
I went and checked him out after I saw the shirt.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy the guy's vocals as much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't listened to. I think I've only heard one song, and it was just passing, like on a Pandora station or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, I don't know. I haven't been listening to a whole lot of music here lately, unless you send it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, Robbie will send me text. You checked out these guys yet? And I'm like, he sent me a couple bands. Like he sent me Beartooth. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Beartooth.
yeah.
Beartooth was, but I was listening to Beartooth before he sent me the text, and I was like, that's cool. And then he's like, have you listened to Touche Amore? And I'm like, no. So let me go check them out. And then, of course, we've got all these things going on Facebook, and Brooks jumps in one day and he's like, have you listened to As Cities Burn? And I'm like, no, I don't think I haven't. I know it's an older band.
Yeah.
And then what was the comments? It's like if Under Oath and
Oh gosh.
what was it? Who was the two bands that if Under Oath and somebody had a baby, it'd be their heavier hardcore baby or something, and then Robbie throws in there cute too. I was like, oh, that's just great.
Yeah, Brooks always has good recommendations of music.
Yeah, I haven't seen. And of course, we're talking about people that nobody, unless they absolutely know us, know these names. So we're just throwing out names. Brooks, I hope you're listening. We are talking about you on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, how about, anybody got anything else? Any good stuff from this week? Anything funny? Any good delivery stories there, Justin?
Yeah,
that I can
I'm
laugh
trying
at
to
you
think
about?
of ones that, or which one to kind of start off with.
I got something.
Okay,
we
go for
talked about something last week that we said we was going to cover. Okay.
Yeah.
We made
Did we not do it?
No, we didn't do it. That
Oh, okay.
we talked. We made a mention to something last week that
Oh,
was kind of funny that people probably didn't understand why we made the comment.
Okay.
And we were in the middle of something. I think they were talking about me getting, out of sorts, and we made the comment, "I'm going back to the hotel."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Just for me, it was like I love that. I laugh, but I don't think everybody else can laugh. You probably can't laugh unless you were there. So anybody listens to the podcast and hears the comment, we're going back to the hotel. I don't think. See, Robbie never. No, you weren't at that Big God with us, were you? In the van when we were looking for food late at night.
Oh yeah, I
I got
was.
so upset.
Because I bought ramen.
That's right. That's right. We
went to the gas station.
Right. So back when I was a youth pastor, way back in the day,
Yeah.
which has been quite a while now.
It has been a while.
It's been a good while. I think we mentioned the other day it's almost been 4 years. But anyways,
Yeah.
we went to a youth conference, one of those lovely Christian youth conferences, and took a bunch of youth, and we was having a good time. And after the conference it gets out pretty late in the evening, and we're driving around, and my wife is driving the SUV with a SUV full of kids, and I've got one of the the church van types with like 300 kids in it.
Right.
And we're all hungry, and I'm the big boy, so I'm hungriest the most. And there's a drive-through Wendy's. It's only open. I couldn't get the van through there. Something happened. I couldn't get the van in there. Something happened. I missed it. They didn't take my order.
I think we just missed it.
We may have missed it. But Kim was over there, and I was like, and then I was like, just getting angry, and everybody was like this and that, and they were all talking. I was like, we're going back to the hotel. I was just hungry, and everybody's like, we'll go to the convenience store and get some food. And then that's when everybody went into the convenience store and was loading up on like ramen. That's the time you fixed ramen and ate it with a straw, wasn't it?
Yeah, I ate each individual noodle through a straw.
Seriously?
Yeah. So everybody's like sleeping.
Oh, that's right. You weren't in the room with us.
No.
Everybody's like trying to sleep, like Keith, and like 3 other guys, and I'm just over in the corner, like
Slurping on some ramen.
Oh my gosh, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm eating my ramen, man.
We don't have any forks, so I'm using a straw.
Why don't you just like bend the bowl and just like use it like a cup? And he's like,
it wouldn't be obnoxious.
No, it wouldn't have been at all. But anyways, that story might not be funny to anybody else, but for some reason, I'll never live it down. I will absolutely never live it down. Especially Mr. Wesley. Every time he sees me, we're going back to the hotel. So forever and a day, I'm known as Mr. We're going back to the hotel. I don't know. Was that very Christian of me to be so angry? I mean, Jesus did flip tables. And I was hungry.
He didn't flip tables because he was hungry, though, I don't imagine.
Jesus was God, or is God. So, I mean, it's, he's got better self-control than I got.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's just roll into some meat and potatoes today.
All right, let's do it.
Oh. With special guest Robbie, he said that we had to add meat, potatoes, and onions. Onions today.
And onions.
So it's
like our camping trips.
Yeah, like our camping trips. Oh my gosh.
I'll be the potatoes.
Oh my gosh, man.
Camping trips?
Oh yeah. Man, it's been a while since I did a full-on man's camping trip because it was all youth ministry stuff, but
okay, I have to tell one story about camping trips. I mean, there are plenty of them, but this one I always love. Okay, so this might have been the second time we went camping, or that I went camping with you guys. And I remember us going to Lake Waccamaw, and we set up our tents and everything. And Robbie didn't bring a tent. And we're
never brought a tent.
And being the Eagle Scout he is, and so we were all like, Robbie, where's your tent? He's like, I'm just going to build my own, little shelter. And so he just goes out into the woods and gets a bunch of sticks and a bunch of, leaves and foliage and just, patches up beside another tree, a little tent thing, a little shelter.
He had a dead wood lean-to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was there, and we're like, all right, so you slept in that the first night, right?
Yeah. I slept in the first night, and then we ran out of firewood.
Night, I think it was me and Ryan. We were looking around for firewood, and we couldn't find any, or we just didn't want to venture out that far, and so we just took your shelter and threw it into the fire. And you got back because you were doing some hike or something. And you got back and your shelter was just gone, and me and Ryan were just laughing because we're like, wait till he sees it, or wait till it's not there. This is gonna be so great.
It was just my blanket, my sleeping bag, and my pillow.
Yeah.
And I was just in my backpack, and I was just because I had heard Keith the night before talking about, he's like, yeah, I know where we can get some firewood. And he gleamed at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's my shelter.
Yeah, if we need something, I know where to find all the good stuff at. Robbie's got it in his shelter. Oh my gosh. Them trips, man. You got to imagine, those camping trips for me go back to, Ocean View, which nobody here listening may know, but for us, it was 2005, 2006 was the first time I did it.
Yeah.
And I think the second one was when it was 2006, I took Jeff Dondy, Alex, Justin White, and somebody else went with us. Man, but that's when the tradition started of deer, potatoes, and onions.
Yep.
It's been a tradition for many years now, almost 10 years. We got to go back and do it one more time. We'll have to take a break and go do it one more time.
And I remember that's one of the first things I ever did with you guys.
Went camping with us.
Yeah, I had just moved in. And
new kid Justin.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast one episode.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, because that's when I brought the peanut butter sandwiches, because all of the the deer stock and the deer meat, and I was like, I don't want any of that. And so I had packed a whole I brought a hamburger, a pack of 12 or whatever, and just spread them with peanut butter, and so I'd have something to eat.
Yeah, that's right, because he didn't eat the food that we ate.
No.
No.
This is what I'm talking about. Manly podcasters.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not manly. I'll
This is my musical guy. So when I need musical, like,
Yeah, you get Les Mis or Phantom of the Opera or any of that. I'm your
that's
dude.
See, that's what I'm saying. See, I didn't say musical like I mean the dude can sing and he's learning how to play bass and he's got some other music, but I mean like musicals.
Oh,
like
yeah.
not musicals. Speaking of musicals, I did watch Phantom of the Opera the other day.
How'd you like it?
No, I actually loved it when it first came out. I think maybe like right around the time y'all were born. The movie, the newer movie with the newer movie musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I like the story of it. I'm not all for, the super duper singing stuff. That kind of throws me off for a little bit. But I do like, the
So
death
great.
and scariness of it. But if you really want to call it scary anymore. But they did a good job on that movie, I think. Now, the rest of the musical stuff, whatever.
I'm all for it. Oh my gosh.
I know you are. But yeah, those camping trips, man, they were something else. I mean, they were always something. Robbie, because of being an Eagle Scout, quite a few times was like, I'm just sleeping under the stars.
Yep.
And then,
Well, I mean, when we tore down a shelter, you kind of had to.
well, the one time we went out there, it was either Robbie or was it Wesley? It was somebody who says, I'm not bringing a tent. I'm just going to sleep right here. And I'm like, dude, it's going to be cold tonight. I mean, we always went in like October, November.
Yeah.
And it was usually pretty chilly at night. And, they're like, oh, I got a sleeping bag. Or, I'm laying on my cot and I got the blanket over me. I was like, but what about underneath you? Well, the cot's underneath me. Boy, that wind start getting blowing up under the cot.
Oh, yeah.
Your backside get cold.
Yep.
And you hear them, it's cold out here. And then you wake up in the morning. I'd wake up in the morning, get out my tent, and there'd be like 6 guys with their cots all pulled around the fire and the fire stoked going.
And I remember also, like, you getting so mad because in the middle of the night, like, we'd start singing Pokemon, the theme song. And you would just, like, yell at us to shut up.
It was like Andrew and Tyler just trying to make Sterling mad.
Yeah. They're singing Pokemon songs in the middle of the night. I'm like, be quiet. It was just, anyways. Camping trips. If you don't know what they're like, you should obviously go with us one time because let's just say
it's an experience.
It's a full-on food fest because we cook like real men.
It's just cooking.
Yeah,
we cook, and then we eat.
We cook, we eat, and then
we start prepping for the next meal.
Yeah, and then we cook and then eat and then start prepping for the next meal, and then we eventually go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was something like that. Lots of meat.
Chris, what is your opinion?
That was great. Had a guy went with us one time, and man, he wasn't feeling good though. Man, he looked like he was pretty sick. And we're all talking, and he's like, I'm awake, and then you hear. I'm like, and so we're all talking, and every time we start having a conversation, we just look over. Hey, Chris, what do you think about that? It was good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
meat, potatoes, and onions.
Meat, potatoes, and onions. So
Yes.
that takes us back to our camping trips. But meat and potatoes and onions today, and we were talking this morning, trying to be a little more pointed on one subject matter, which of course, this is forgetting walls. We may ask a question. We'll eventually
Never get to it.
We'll eventually forget it, not get to it. Talk about something totally different. We hope you enjoy that format. If you don't, well, you're probably not listening to us anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But since we've got, and I don't want to say technically we're all really that different in, I guess, our core doctrinal beliefs. There's just some things, some gray areas that we may see differently.
Right. There always are. So
yeah, I guess at the heart, if if you have to label yourself, not that Justin actually comes from a Baptist background, but I think the start of his spiritual journey really was rooted in a Baptist background,
at least on the Christian side.
Yeah, Christian side, and Robbie's as well, and of course mine as well. Talking about denominations, but I think what we want to talk about is we're going to talk about denominations at some point this morning. But more poignantly, what we want to look at is because at Forgetting Walls, we're always talking about closing these gaps, the gaps that has been created between people inside the walls, like the church walls, and those outside, and this growing gap of isolation, this wall that's being built that's separating people.
Right.
And so this morning, what we want to do is we want to really talk to and maybe even at those inside the walls, and for the benefit of those outside the walls looking in, for those people who see how we act, how we treat each other. You know, we have the mantra, love one another, right?
Yep.
Be in this, I've heard Peyton Jones use the term one anothering, you know, pray for one another, love one another, eat with one another, do all these things with one another. But when you look inside the walls, you don't see a lot of one anothering. You know what I'm saying? It seems very divided. So kind of what we want to get at this morning is, for one thing, we definitely want to look at the outsiders' views of how they see the church as universal, the global church, because that's how we see it. We may even get back into discussions of talking about what church is. We discussed it in episode 1, I believe. We had a vocabulary segment way back in the day when we were doing stuff like that. Little cliche segments and stuff, but we talked about what church really means from a very biblical definition of what the world sees.
Yep.
So we may get into that as well. We also, and the biggest part is the view of how outsiders, you know, where Christianity states that we're together, but when the outsiders, I think, are looking in, they see Christians divided, not together.
Right.
So maybe we'll discuss that. We'll talk maybe about our philosophies and ideologies on denominations, on what some people may talk about, like sectarianism, having different sects, sects, people. I'm sorry, I'm so country, I can't pronounce words. Not different sects in churches, because that would just be strange, wouldn't it? But sects in church, sectarianism. So I maybe over-explained that. But anyways, that's my niche. I over-explain everything.
Yep. No worries.
See, Justin agrees.
I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah. I believe me, I caught it. We'll have a discussion later in the business meeting when I decrease your pay by twice.
0 divided by 0 is still 0.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I was sitting there thinking, man, hey, we could give Jack a raise. You know, we can triple his salary. Yeah. Because 0 multiplied by 0 is 0.
Or anything.
And 0 multiplied by 1,000,000 is still 0. So let's look at it like this. We've got a lot of different denominations out here today. And we're speaking strictly Christianity. Like hardcore Christianity values, you know, Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian,
Lutheran, Anglican,
Episcopalians, Protestants, Free Will Baptists, Pentecostals, Church of God, Assemblies of God, Church of Christ,
Quakers.
Yeah. Quakers. That was a good one, Justin. Quakers.
Thank
you threw Keith off.
Yeah, you did. You absolutely love, like,
yes, finally.
Quakers. Free Will Pentecostal Baptist. That one always strikes me like funny. Pentecostal Free Will Baptist denomination. Yeah. It's like you took two denominations that shouldn't be together, and you just, well, I guess they can, because like Free Will Baptist is basically Pentecostal, right? I mean, I don't get all. It's like the more church splits, the more names you add to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my favorite one is like, and then you have Missionary Baptist, Southern Baptist, Baptist, American Baptist, First Baptist, Northern Baptist. Like legit, there's like 1,000 Baptists.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. Anabaptist. I mean, it blows my mind at the number. And I mean, even in their own, I mean, you got what, Presbyterians, Free Evangelicals. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, there's more denominations of Christian churches than there is, I think, religions in of itself. I mean, it's astonishing. We probably should have been more prepared and just pulled up a list of denominations.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now.
That's no fun. Yeah, it is. Anyways, but and it's I never really wondered when I was younger, like when I started going to church and started getting into Christianity, and when I got saved, I never really understood the differences. I mean, I got saved in a little church called Grace Baptist, and the denomination never struck me. I guess because, of course, I didn't know anything about theology.
Right.
What the differences were. I thought, I mean, you went to a church. You just went to a different church because it was closer to you, or it's the people you knew.
Right.
I didn't know a whole lot of differences, because the first church I think I ever went to was, I think it may have been Methodist in nature because it was an American Korean church. And most of the churches I've gone that were Korean churches were Korean Methodist churches. I don't remember. And then I went to her dad's church, which was a Baptist church, a Southern Baptist church in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a difference. Of course, I wasn't saved either.
Right.
So I didn't see a difference in, I did see a difference between Korean American church, of course.
Right, obviously.
But I didn't really understand the difference between like the preaching, the music, and none of that, because none of that stuff really resonated in who I was because I wasn't a Christian.
Right.
Even after I got saved, though, you just kind of, I don't know, it almost feels like you were pulled in a direction. I never really tried a Methodist church, and it wasn't because I was like, well, I'm not going to a Methodist church. It was just that we just kind of always ended up in Baptist churches until I guess I grew a little more in understanding the Bible and faith and theology and those things. That I started, okay, what is the difference between these places? And then I started to research, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Those are the differences.
Yep.
So I guess that's where I come from with, I guess, understanding denominations. And I guess denominations are just, like today, I believe they're doctrinal theological beliefs that separate individuals.
Yeah.
So, why do we have so many, Justin?
Do you really want me to go through a history of why?
Well, I don't want us to get into like, let's sit down class philosophy of it, but just your general opinion of why you think people can't get along.
Oh, well, I think, at least to me, like, there's been denominations ever since the inception of Christianity, I would argue. Because you have all these different belief systems, you have all these different kind of viewpoints of what who Christ is, who what the atonement means, all these different things that have been argued pretty much since the inception of the church. And so I think one reason is because I think, and I might get a lot of flack from this, but I think Christianity is a pretty flexible religion in that it can, I think different aspects of it can be emphasized or de-emphasized and then taken to be a central doctrine of the church. And so to me, it's what emphasis is on what that creates these doctrines, and the fact that and also I think pride probably has a part in it too, because we want, okay, this is right, this is the only group that's right, and everyone else that believes pretty much the same thing, but one little thing different, you're not right. And it's like, it's kind of, in some instances, it can be elevating oneself over another group.
Okay.
So,
Bueller.
You wonder why I don't talk on podcasts.
I told you, every week I have to get it in. I just got to find the right moment to get it in. No, I agree. I mean, especially when you was talking about how Christianity is flexible in of itself.
Yeah.
Because I think there are certain core things that have to be.
Right.
And as long as those core things aren't messed with, because of, I guess, the infallibility of the human mind to understand God's word.
Yeah.
That's why it's so flexible. I want to go back to what you're saying and maybe get Robbie to chime in as well. But you talked about the inception of Christianity, okay? So basically the inception of the church. So are we talking Acts 2? Or are we talking later 1st, 2nd century?
I was speaking of like later first, second century.
Okay. With
like Pelagius and all those.
Yeah, okay, I can get on board with that. I can get, because I think that's like last week we went to, when I was saying looking at the past church, the first, second, y'all kind of defined it. Okay, are you talking about, the first, second,
Right.
Let's just so people don't get out of base. But I think it wasn't too long after the inception of like Acts 2. I mean, we were still in Acts seeing
Right.
Seeing this happen. Of course, in Acts, because that's where Paul finds the church in Corinth, and we see, and we'll probably talk about a little bit more, but where in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, Paul starts addressing the church being separated, the concept of sectarianism. Right there, we see Paul having to address it. So, Robbie, your thoughts on denominations, how you see it?
I mean, I go to the Christian Baptist Christian college, but everybody there isn't Baptist. But so you start to see a lot of differences. One of the biggest things is Baptist versus like Wesleyans. Do you believe in Calvinism? That's the biggest thing. And like they've even had to get like teachers to calm down on it. Like teachers will go on like rants.
Right.
And so they're like, you can't talk about this in class anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So teachers, like, because it just got really big, and then it hurt people's feelings. And so they'd cry to their moms, and then their moms would call the school. It's college. Learn to critically think.
I'm not going to say anything I say because I just don't want to be labeled too much. I'm already labeled as a chauvinistic sexist anyways, the way I talk. So I'm just not going to say anything about the men in colleges and how they act. It's just ridiculous. Grow up.
But one of the biggest things I see is just like church splits into denominations.
Right.
I think that's probably like one of the worst things, just because it's not even that they're splitting over doctrinal issues. It's that they're splitting over, we want a contemporary service.
Yep.
So we're no longer going to be a Southern Baptist. We're just going to be a non-denominational church.
Yeah, but in reality, like it's just worship. It's just music, and that's what you guys are splitting over.
Yeah.
Even if it gets as like simple as like, we're getting new pews. What color should we get?
Can't get red because everybody in this church went to UNC. So yeah.
but red's my favorite color.
Yeah, right.
So we need to get red.
Yeah, but I like blue, and we got to have blue because blue's the color of the sky. That's what God created. He didn't create it red. Red's the color of the devil.
But the Gamecocks are red.
They're more crimson.
But the atonement, Christ's blood.
Yeah, and then they'll just like split over stuff like that. That's what just really like burdens my heart. Just because once you get a church that splits like that, I mean, you're going to end up splitting the leadership.
Yeah.
And once you do that, like you've just weakened the church.
Right.
And you've just become bitter between other Christians while we're just all family. The church isn't just the building.
Yeah, and it's tough because but I think it works in reverse because I've been around where a church is split, and I've been around where a church is merged, and it's I'm not for denominations, but and Justin will probably, like we talked about earlier, probably will agree that I am for denominations too, just because it's so hard to. I think people should be brought together with their differences. I think. And I would say this, my ideal church is where I can go to a place of worship. This is where we're going to gather corporately to worship. And you can have an Arminian theology, you can have a Calvinist theology, you can have no theology. I don't really care. I don't care if you're Baptist or Presbyterian or Methodist. That we're all coming together for the corporate togetherness of worship. The one God that we all believe in. And that's my problem. I mean, I understand that, it would be very hard to preach a message to a room full of Calvinists and Arminians one way or the other. Honestly, for me, it's not hard. I could do it, but just because I don't think of, I guess when I do my preaching now, the way my style has changed, that I don't preach doctrine or theology. I preach Christ. So to focus towards Christ. Now, I understand that those theologies will kind of, but if you're preaching Christ and you're preaching the message of loving one another and going, equipping for people to go out and reach people for Christ. And in reverse, of course, I won't even get to my whole philosophy of church and how I think it's weird and being done wrong. So, the reason I'm here doing this, but I guess I see a need both ways. But my problem is that, and what we really should get to today is those on the outside, you know, looking in at us. I mean, what are they seeing? I mean, okay, I understand not all atheists get along on the same topic, right? But they all come together for a common purpose. I mean, they all get on the same point. Atheism is what we're standing for, and we want this, this, and this, and this. I would say Islam, but we already know that's not true. I mean, there's a lot of differing. There's a lot of separation. That I mean, you know, just inside of Iraq, you know, the Sunnis and the Shumites. You know, so there's, I mean, in religion itself, nobody can just get along. Can you think of anybody, like, one religion that gets along with itself? I mean, even the Mormons had a split and have a split on doctrine and stuff. Yeah. Maybe the Jehovah's Witnesses are the only ones. But then again, I don't know enough about them to really throw it out there.
Yeah. And it's like, I think in at least certain ways, religion itself, I wouldn't say encourages division, but it has the potential to, I guess, encourage division.
Yeah.
Why not say it? But because I think that in religion, it's a process of deconstructing itself, especially in Christianity. It's a religion that deconstructs itself, and that you know, we look at all these different aspects and, I mean, disagree on these things. But yeah, so I think, and at least one way, just the nature of religion itself is kind of like a catalyst for division. And I'm not saying division between humans, but just division between, like, thinking.
Yeah, so, well, I think we'll always have a division of thinking. I mean, you can go all the way back to the beginning. Well, the beginning of the word, and see how divisions started and how people, you know, saw what they should do according to God and what others should do according to God. Even though, you know, if you're looking at it from, and of course, this episode is all based off Christian theology, thinking, philosophy. So there's no, you know, like last week we'd have to say, you know, looking at it from an atheist side or a Christian side. Everything's going to be looking from a Christian perspective this week. So, you know, how, I mean, even when, gosh, lose my train of thought, like when Samuel, you know, the whole reign of the judges was happening. And then everybody's like, well, we want a king and we want to be like everybody else. And he's sitting there telling them, this is what God wants for you. And this is the process. And they're like, well, we want it this way because this is what we think. We think God should do it like this for us. And then he's like, all right, but if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And I think it's flowed from the beginning. I mean, Jesus, and of course, since we're speaking New Covenant, from the beginning, Jesus laid out the foundation of what the church should look like, how the church should operate. All those things are being laid out. And man, because we're man, started changing it. I mean, we saw it happen in the book of Acts. We spoke about First Corinthians. Paul speaks about it again in Galatians. As always, religion or Christianity in of itself has been damaged because of, and I think you noted it, pride, because of man's pride.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that kind of, I mean, Robbie was talking about music. Okay. All right. So he was talking about how churches split over music. All right.
Yeah. Right.
What doctrine of theology encompasses what institutes worship music?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I want somebody to tell me that. Okay. I was listening to, let's see, let me think of which podcast it was. It was a Bad Christian podcast, I think. Gosh, now I can't think of it. This is just great. It was, or it may have been it was either a Bad Christian or Relevant podcast. I can't remember the guy who was doing it. This is how bad my mind is, people. I cannot think and remember anything. But what it boiled down to is, and Justin, you may remember me talking about this, but they went, or I may have talked about it on a Tuesday night. I don't know. Anyways. But the guy was going over to Syria, and he was recording the first century, basically worship songs from like, it was a Syrian Orthodox church. Yeah. And they held like the original music, like the original songs and stuff that they would sing way back in the day.
Nice.
It was Bad Christian, and it was the dude from Frodus.
Okay.
It was the I think it was the drummer from Frodus. See, this is how bad I am. But I'm getting it down. I'm narrowing it down, people.
There you go.
Yeah, we're getting there. But he's doing music, and he got he was trying to do something new. And what they was going to do is they were going to take they were going to get the old type of Christian music, the first Christian music, and they were going to do rock overlays to it. They were going to take those tracks, and they were going to but they didn't have any recordings of it. So he went to Syria, and he started recording there at I think it was a Syrian Orthodox church. They started recording, and I'm thinking, man, what does that sound like? I really would wonder what that sounded like. So I went in to the website and listened to the music, and it's exactly what I didn't think it was. It sounds like if you listen to, and this is how I'm going to do it. Do you remember the Enigma, the chants, the Celtic chants and stuff like that, the monastery chants? It sounds like a lot of Middle Eastern music that you may hear, which of course is Middle Eastern, right? Right. It sounds like that. It's just like a bunch of monks chanting, it's not chanting, but it's singing. Yeah. It was singing the songs in those original languages, and I'm like, so if we were to be literal in our churches, we want to stick to the stuff that's super traditional, then we should be singing some straight up Latin or Middle Eastern or Aramaic or old dead Hebrew or Koine Greek stuff, right? Yeah. And it's just big hollow,
Yeah. You mean to tell me that the hymnal wasn't around then?
Yeah, there was no hymns at that time. And what was considered a hymn then, and I think this is what he was saying, is the original hymns. It's what was considered a hymn then would not be considered a hymn now, because how, and this is my favorite thing. This is something I believe when we're talking about music or differencing having the differing thoughts of music. People say, look in the Bible, it says psalms and hymns, and I'm like, yeah, but when Paul spoke about hymns in the first century, it's not the hymns that homeboy wrote in 1876. Right. Or 1713, it wasn't those hymns. So it's people I think that's another thing. It just all, like we said last week, Justin, it all boils back to pride. Everybody thinks it's theirs. This is the way. This is the only way. The only time I saw it was the only way is when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Right.
The biggest church split that I've really hurts me to see is there's a guy in my class, and he's the interim pastor right now. And he's come in, and because he's in college, he's told some of his friends hey man, you guys should come to this church, and bring your guys as friends. So he's got all this younger college kids coming to this church, right? Yeah. And he said that, man, he's starting to see change in the church. People are starting to get revived. He's seen people getting saved in the church, and other people have come to the church and gotten saved. But he said there's two people in the church, two deacons, and they hate the fact that new people are coming in and that people are getting saved. And he doesn't like the change at all. He's too much youth, he's doing too much stuff, he's changing too much stuff. And this guy is getting super mad, and he's at the next board meeting, Brad had said that he thinks that he's going to put on a table for him to get booted out of the church.
The enemy from within.
Yeah.
And it just hurts to see that, that this church is striving. This church is actually starting to grow. It's right. Because once all these older people die, then there would be no church. Right. So it just hurts that the people are like that. That they have so much pride that this is the way that my church has always been.
Yeah.
And I've been going here since I was born.
Right.
And nothing ever should change.
Right.
Even if it's for the betterment of the church.
That's funny because I think that's the very thing that we may be trying to get to or allude to today is that what does that look like? I mean, when somebody looks in and they see that, I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's just division. It's that they can't even get along with themselves, and how are they going to get along with me?
Exactly.
If they're targeting people within their own tradition as the other, then who the hell am I going to be to them? That's sort of at least what I think if I were to put myself in those shoes. And that's how I kind of saw it when I wasn't a Christian back in the day. Yeah, it was looking and basically just seeing division in the church and being like, I don't want any part of that.
Right. And that's always been an issue of mine. I guess for me, when I started really studying the Bible, looking at philosophy, looking at church history, and not just looking at it from a very theoretical view, but a very pragmatic view. Really seeing how it really affects everybody around you. I saw the biggest negative laid on those who weren't in the church, those who were outside the walls. I said, I can see how we can have differences here and we can have our little scuffles and our skirmishes, but it doesn't do Jesus any justice into the world, because they're like, well, if this Jesus is God and this God is so great and he's all powerful, why does his worshipers, battle? And it brings me to a good reference. I like I said, I've been watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I know that's so unchristian to me. And I'm watching Angel too, which is very, very unchristian to me because it's an angel who is a vampire, right? But there was an episode this week where, forgive me, but there was this group that worshiped this demon, right?
Right.
And they were fighting each other, right? On worship styles. Okay? So these two different factions were trying to kill each other off so one could have control over the style of worship. But when the good guys walked in, or not the good guys, but when Angel and his merry band of crazy people walked in to kind of get rid of the demon, they all banded together to fight the opposing team. So the only way that Christians seem to group together is when they're on the offensive or defensive against the outsiders.
Right.
So I don't know. I just thought it was funny that I watched that this week and it kind of made me think of that. But I mean, it's the truth. The only way Christians band together is when they're standing against something.
Yeah, in opposition to something else.
And honestly, that doesn't even work anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're standing against each other on the things that we supposedly stand against, which is, I guess, weird in itself. But it just goes to show you that people are people. I think that keeps, we talked about last week with Jack about inherently good and inherently bad people. Jack is actually absolutely the most happy, optimistic person I have ever talked to in my life, because he thinks everybody is good somewhere, and I'm like, I'm not good, and we're going to have that chat, Jack. I'm not good, but I look at Christians, I'm like, if we're good and we're supposed to believe in this good God, or if we are inherently good from that standpoint, and there's this good God, why do we have such hateful intentions toward each other? And right. Even though Christians say, "Oh, I love my brothers," I can look through the churches and see there's no love for a lot of brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And how does that look when you're looking from the outside in? Like right. We said, we see division, we see hatred, and and then I started to think, we was talking earlier, I'm like, well, so what constitutes a church? What constitutes the church? What brings all this together? Why do we call, Justin, let me ask you this question.
Go for it.
And I'll ask Robbie this question too.
Okay.
What constitutes church membership?
That's interesting. Because the church I go to, and the church, like my home church here in Boone, there's no formal membership.
Okay.
To be a part of the church. The philosophy behind that is if you say you're a part of this, then you're a part of it. And so you come to it or don't, or, you get involved however you want to. And the way that we do programs at the church is we don't have these different things and like, oh, we have this event and that event. It's more grassroots where people go to, if somebody's interested in doing something, then we'll work alongside like other people in order to do that ministry. But we're not going to do something and, try to promote it unless the people are actually interested in doing it. And so getting back to my point, there's no formal membership in that. So it's a lot looser definition, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because, there's not a document saying, oh, yes, I'm officially a member of this. Okay. But I think if you're part of the church and so church membership, I'm trying to get back to your question.
Let me break it down a little bit for you so you don't have a conniption fit over there.
Okay.
When I say church membership,
right.
What is from your definition, from your understanding, what makes you a part of the church?
What makes me a part of the church? First, my belief in Christ.
Okay.
And yeah, that's.
What about you? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I would go as far to say that it just when you're being saved, that means you're part of the church, because the church with a capital C is
right.
Is just the family of believers.
Exactly.
Right.
But to this point of formal membership, I actually agree with formal membership only because I don't say that numbers matter per se. Yeah. But for church planning and stuff like that, I think you need to have a number of people, because other words, this is something we're going through in like youth ministry, talking about how your numbers for your youth ministry don't matter, but they do matter. To say if you're going to have pizza night tonight.
Well, you're talking more
but
you're
like
talking
logistics.
You're talking
for
about
like planning.
Logistics. Yeah,
for like planning aspects. You need to know your numbers. You can't buy one pizza thinking you're going to have the 8 kids.
Well, but what I'm saying is
that's what I'm saying for church membership.
But outside of like a formal membership, so okay, let's say I went to a church one time, right? Mm-hmm. And I was a part of a church, and the membership was 700 plus people.
Yeah,
the attendance was 250.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go one way or the other about how a church does their logistics with church membership. But I think what I really want to point to is what constitutes a person being a part of the church. And I think y'all both agree, being a part of Jesus. Mm-hmm. I'm going to reference a book during the podcast, Reimagining Church by Frank Viola. If you haven't read it, dude, take a couple of weeks and read this book. I'm reading through it again just because the first time I read it, it was like intense, like real quick. Now I'm like taking my time and kind of breaking it down. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And he's got this whole section on sectarianism, right? Denominations, about being a part of a church, right?
Right.
And he takes this verse from 1 Corinthians 1:11 through 13. It says, "My brothers, some from Chloe's household have informed me that there are quarrels among you. And what I mean is this: one of you says, I follow Paul; another, I follow Apollos; another, I follow Cephas; still another, I follow Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Were you baptized in the name of Paul?" So basically, he's just saying, look, even in the very beginning, which we talked about, there was already a division among Christians, who they would follow, how they were going to do church, what people were saying. I want to follow this person because they say this. I'm going to follow this person because they see this. This is how we're going to believe. Even to the fact that even the ones who said we were following Christ, in the attempt of how some scholars believe that, we're going to follow Christ and we don't need any leaders. We just need to follow Christ and that's it. There needs no leadership, no apostolic leadership, no pastor leadership, none of that. It's just Christ.
Right.
So, and Frank continues and says, we've gotten off track. But there was a statement in the book that he makes, and he says Christians should never join sects because they are inherently divisive, and God does not own them. To put it plainly, the only church we as believers can claim is the one that Jesus Christ began. his body in local expression. And that body receives and accepts all who have trusted Jesus. While not a few Christians have narrowed the scope of the body of Christ, others have exceeded it in their attempt to be all-inclusive. These groups have sought oneness with the unbelievers, but this kind of oneness is foreign to the Bible. He says it's going back and forth. There's been people who have added to it and taken away from it about being a part of the church, where people have done it so much that there's a lot of separation, and then there's this one where it's being all-inclusive, where, I guess the one there's many paths that lead to him, many paths that lead to heaven. Everybody can be accepted into the church. You don't have to just believe in Christ. There, you're taking out the one core value of what it means to be a Christian and be a part of the church. So when we go back, let's say, look at formal church membership, okay? Think about what it is. Think about what you said about being a part of a church. Now, I know we're going to get into denominations a little bit, but I want to start with church membership because I think this is where a lot of churches, being denominationally different, will start to differ, okay, on how you're a part of the church, okay? And I think this is something that people don't understand, because when you say, church, they automatically think of these buildings, the denominations, and they're like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that because the church has hurt me, which we already said that the church is not a building, it's not a denomination, it's not a place of worship, it's the body of believers as Christ. So when we look at these formal memberships, what is it that you have to do to be formally a member of, okay, let's just do Baptist churches, because we all were there, okay, and some of us are still there. So what is it that you have to do to be a member of a Baptist church? And they differ. Now, they differ still. And even within the Southern Baptist Convention, some churches differ.
Some of them, they just accept you by faith. You just fill out a form, check a few boxes, write your address. And then others, you have to be baptized in, I believe. To be baptized in the church.
All right.
Those are the two I can think of. I don't know, Justin.
I've never done anything to be a formal member of a church.
Yeah, he doesn't study these things. Oh. It's okay. No. And Robbie's right. Depending on what you've done in your life as a Christian, and we'll just do Baptist just for the sake of everything. I know Methodists do something. I know Presbyterians do something. I know everybody has something, and it's all based around kind of the same philosophies. But let's just do Baptist churches. So to be a member of most Baptist churches, you have to have been baptized at some point. You have to be baptized, and not just baptized, sprinkled, but you have to be dunked. So you got to go under and come out.
Full immersion.
Full immersion. Okay, I believe in full immersion, but it's neither here nor there, because from what I read, baptism doesn't equate to salvation. So
right.
So okay. So but baptism, all right. You normally would have to come forward in the church to be considered a member. You have to tell the pastor at the time of invitation. You got to do the
altar call.
Altar call. Yeah, we're going to do the altar call. Got to come up front. You got to tell the pastor, I want to be part of the church. Pastor turns around and he says, hey, he's coming by this. He's going to be baptized. Like Robbie said, a little statement of faith. Basically, I've never been a part of any church, but I have been baptized. I want to be a part of yours. So they're going to take your statement of faith or transfer of letter, which is my favorite. We're going to take your letter from another church and transfer it over here to be a member. And then he says, okay, so this person's coming based on this, and all those who agree, give me a good hearty amen. And everybody, amen. So everybody amens it, right?
Yep.
So
and then we got to go up there and greet them.
And then everybody's got to get in the line, shake the hands, give hugs. Yeah. Don't matter if it's flu season or not.
Which is always kind of awkward.
It is,
to be honest.
Most of the time you're the new member, you're the new person, you know nobody, and everybody's coming, oh, we're so glad to have you. And then 3 weeks later, that person never talks to you again.
Exactly. You also get to have people that brought you to that church. They get to come and stand up.
Yeah, right. Can somebody come in?
That's the most awkward thing.
Right.
Because everybody's greeting the new people, but you're standing there.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And you're just like...
Yeah, I've been here for a while.
Yeah.
Can we have somebody come up here and just and support them? We're going to need some support up here for them. Come stand. And they're like, oh, we're so happy you came. We're so happy you're part of the church. And then, like, legit, like, I know most people, like, I was a youth pastor. We had a lot of people join one of the churches I was at. A lot of salvations, a lot of baptisms. And kids tell me, like, nobody speaks to me anymore. Nobody calls me. Nobody, like the first couple of weeks, everybody's talking to me. Now nobody talks to me. Am I really a member of this place or what? And it's the confusion of it. But so there's all those things. And then added to it, most now Baptist churches make you go through their like first step class, new members class or something before you can be an official member too. So you got to take a 3 to 5 to 6 hour class on that church, the doctrine, the beliefs, and all those things before you become a member too. I guess if you're becoming a member of that organization, it's probably good to know what that organization does.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm not knocking it, but I'm just like, man, I spent all this time in class and I hate school. But
it's good that the church is letting everybody know this is our doctrinal beliefs.
Yeah.
And getting down to the nitty gritty kind of stuff.
So let me ask you a question, right? So we talked about logistics and things like that, but when we look at and we're just going to use the Baptist church, we can pick on them. Bless you.
Salute.
Thank you.
Spanish. Bless you.
What'd you say?
Salute.
Salud.
Salud.
Yeah, salud. Salud. Is that how you pronounce it?
Salud.
I don't know. I'm not Spanish.
I like the Southern Baptist Southerner. Salud.
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 Just the old country white person trying to speak Spanish.
Yeah,
that's all right. But so you see all the things that they do in the Baptist church to become a member of that organization.
Yeah.
Okay, so you become. I hate the fact that it's called church membership, because the only requirement for church membership is to be saved, to know Christ as your Savior. To accept that, to believe in that, to surrender to that, whatever theological principle you want to add to that. It's about Christ. Okay?
Right.
So when we add these stipulations, when we add all these other things to the church, how do you think that's coming across to people? It's like, well, you said you have to do this, but then you're adding all these other things to me. Do you think, outside the fact, like Robbie was saying, was the logistics of numbers, which I understand, but is that nothing more than just average church attendance, just figuring out what people are coming in a 4-week average and understanding that to plan church stuff? Do we have to be so legalistic and governing?
Right.
That we have to have these institutional regulations to manage people, and something that honestly from the get-go really wasn't managed at all?
And to go to your question of how does church membership look to outsiders, I think people, if you're a member of a church, just because you're a member of a church doesn't mean that you're actually a Christian.
True.
Just because, maybe you got born into the church, and so now you're just a church membership by association, I guess. You're born into it. And then people equate that with them people being a Christian. And then they see that person going out and doing things that, maybe they're out smoking weed, maybe they're out doing drugs, partying, and all this stuff, and they're like, what a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because I see them go to church on Sundays, and then, they go out, they're dressed all nice, and they're super Christian, but, Saturday night, I was just doing cocaine with them. So I think that gives people a bad rep, because they see that as it's a representative for Christians.
I like how you went from smoking weed to doing cocaine.
my two favorite drugs.
Oh, that was great. Well, I see that. But I think we've been trying to distill the vision of what Christians are.
Yeah.
To purify that. Okay, Christianity is this. This is. Don't get with the polluted images of what you see, because not everybody who is going to church is a Christian. I think we've tried to do a pretty good job of clarifying those issues, because I think honestly, we want to get people away from having to see people as a label, because I think once we like I said, when we see people as people, we start breaking through these stereotypes and these things that people are supposed to be doing, because at the basic level of who we are as human beings, we are, like I said, Christian perspective, sinful, right? So we're not perfect. There's no such thing as somebody who can do everything perfectly. And because nobody understands what perfect morality really is. Nobody really knows what that looks like outside of Christ or what we know about Christ. So I think that's one of the things when you talk about people from the outside looking in, they first need to understand. And we can't talk right at those people, atheists, Mormons, whoever we want outside the walls, Buddhists, Muslims. We're not perfect. So let's dispense that myth of perfection of a human being because they're Christian, because being a Christian doesn't make us perfect. Matter of fact, being a Christian, all it does is makes us recognize our imperfection more. Where we don't strive to be perfect, but we strive to glorify God.
Right.
You know, that's the difference. That's what people should see. So, and that's the problem I have with, you know, and not that I have this, you know, angry problem with, and let's just say atheist agnostics, you know, oh, look at Christians, they're supposed to be so perfect, yet they do this, you know, like, Bad Christian was famous for throwing stones. I don't want to call it throwing stones, but they were getting all over Russell Wilson. After the Super Bowl, you know, when he got divorced and he's out there promoting God and this, that, and the other and lifting up God and trying to have this perfect image. And then he falters and then he does all these other things, which they didn't like. And that's fine. They have their own opinions.
Right.
But, you know, because of being like having that celebrity view, and that's, I feel the same thing with with all pastors in churches. Okay. They're elevated to this platform, this pedestal of perfection, which honestly, we as Christians should already know they can't attain. We shouldn't even put them up there. So when they fall, the fall is not long and hard and, you know, devastating to that local body, to that local expression of Christ, right?
Right.
Because if they fall, they go, oh, they stumbled, they fell. So let's pick them back up, figure out what's going wrong, maybe get some restoration counseling going on, something happening with them because they're just like me. Because how can I expect that human being to stand as the leader by himself of this church and to attain perfection when I can never do it? So, and that's for all those who are listening to us who are on the outside, whether you believe in Christ or you don't believe in God or there is no God to you or you're just listening to see if you can make fun of us for some reason. We're not perfect. I mean, obviously we're not perfect. Listen to our podcast, especially listen to me talk. You got to know I'm not perfect. I mean, just in that one sense, you can tell that we're not perfect. We're getting it wrong somewhere. We mess up. We forget. We don't know. We don't have all the answers. You know, Justin's in college. Justin, are you getting it right every day? You doing everything perfectly?
Oh, hell no.
All right. Robbie, are you hitting those straight A's? Perfect 4.0s, 100 papers?
I haven't seen an A in a while. Think intro to sports management, I got an A.
Nice.
Yeah, boom.
Right on. So I mean, you know, first thing I want to say is, you know, when people are looking in at us, and I'm not saying excuse our behavior, because our behavior is sometimes inexcusable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But look at us like everybody else, like a human being. Like, we have flaws, we have imperfections, we have these things that are going wrong with us. So take note to that and go, wow. Even though they may not believe like me, they're just like me. They're messing up. They're doing something that, you know, they're having issues with, you know?
Right. I think that's where like a secular morality comes in. Just because, you know, one way of looking at it is people say, well, you know, killing people and, you know, that's up there. That's like number one. You don't do that. That's the number one type of commandment. You're not
biggest no.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't kill people and, you know, I don't commit adultery. I don't cheat on my wife. So, you know, that's number two. And, you know, people put the 10 Commandments in order.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is number one, this is bad. But, you know, like, you know, putting idols, you know, that's number 10. You know, you can do that, and you can get away with that. It's not against the law.
Right.
And so, I think that comes in. Almost lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Break?
He's a member. He is a member for Getting Walls now.
It's official.
You're official.
Man, I forgot what I was talking about.
That's great.
I was thinking so hard about.
Well, we kind of we're talking about how we're not perfect and we're sinning, and you went with secular morality and the list of things, and we don't mind this because I think I've actually done this and Justin had to point me back on the right path. We do this a lot, but...
Oh, I know where I was going with this now.
There we go.
There we go.
Sweet.
People put this in a list, and so they don't see that they have their own sins within the church. And, they think, like, well, like one of my things was, I was a skater kid. And so people didn't want to have grind events, like events where they'd make their church parking lots into skate parks. Mm-hmm. And, they'd bring in, like, the Edge 88.5, and they'd, like, play a show for us and play some heavier music. And, it was a good outreach. And, looking out from the outside in, if people... Like, I never understood why they didn't do that again.
Right.
And from the outside looking in, I would just see that as just like, well, why don't you care about me?
Yeah.
I'm just a person too. Just because I like to smoke weed doesn't mean that you're any better than me.
Yeah.
Well, or that you're not deserving of grace.
Yeah, and I think that's like, gosh, man, that's going way back to what, like episode number 2. We talked about extending grace. Was it episode number 2?
That was 4.
4? Extending grace? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a while back. And just think, hey, we're at episode 11.
Yeah.
Word.
That's right.
11's a great number. We won't discuss why it's such a great number, but it's a great number, at least to me. It revolves around everything in my life, 11. But anyways.
Once. Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish. I don't know Spanish.
What's up with you in Spanish today, dude?
Spanish 3 is kicking his butt.
3. Yeah, I gotta keep using Spanish words. So I remember them.
But, and you're right, because, and Robbie was speaking to a specific event that I was, like, legit part of way back in the day. And we had this nice little Christian coalition youth thing going on with, like, all these churches were sending all their youth pastors to, and we were all getting together, and we was planning these, like, big youth events. And, like I said, Christian perspective. And we were like, man, we really want to reach those, the ones that nobody reaching. And I had like a large population of skater kids in my church.
Yeah.
But then again, that's just me. I mean, I love the skater kids. And it's not just the skater kids. Don't get me wrong. I love the music. And it's not just because I love the music, but it was just, I loved them. They were kids. They needed to be loved. Nobody else was loving on them. So, hey, I'm going to be there to step in and fill the gap. Hey, Christian talk today, baby. I'm filling the gap so I can pour into them. But, so we did these things, and this is what I noticed. And Robbie made it apparent that this is why we have such a hard time reaching people in our world, or in our Bible Belt world. If you're different, if you do things different, they don't like you. They don't treat you as humans. And, I mean, one of the reasons I left a place, a church, was because they would much rather throw rules and regulations. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do it our way. Don't do it your way. And to the point where they ran off all the people we're trying to reach.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And what do you expect people on the outside to look at the church for? Oh, we want to go. The church is supposed to be a place of love, compassion, mercy, and grace. And when you're telling people, no, you can't come in here looking like that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, you can't do this. What does that send? That doesn't send a message of love and mercy and compassion and grace. That sends a message of conformity. That sends a message of, bigotry, of hate. I don't see that working. And Robbie said it best. He's like, well, why don't you do this? If I smoke weed and that's what I do, and you don't like me because of that, you won't speak to me because of that, you won't extend grace to me because of that, then why should I even come over there? Because everything that you're preaching is hypocritical. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I get that a lot.
Yeah.
It's also like that story of the homeless guy who was sitting outside of a church, and he got it there early before anybody else got there, so the whole church congregation would have to walk past him in front of the doors. Mm-hmm. And a couple people would say hey to him, but there's only like a couple people, and everybody walked in, and so everybody's sitting down, and they're supposed to have a new pastor come in, and he's supposed to be teaching that day. And so the homeless guy gets up, walks down the aisle, gets up to the pulpit, and it's really just the pastor dressed up as a homeless guy. And he says, I don't know if I can pastor a church that wouldn't even talk to the homeless guy sitting out, where this is what you guys are supposed to be doing. You guys are supposed to be helping the homeless.
Yeah, and that story is. There's a couple of versions to that story too. There's one where the pastor dresses up the homeless guy and he goes in, he sits in the back row of the church and see how the people act, and then he eventually goes up. Which is the story. I know that story revolves on Facebook and stuff like that, which is not an actual true story.
Right.
It's not a true story. It is a good story, but it's not a true story. But you're right. That story in of itself, I had to dispel it because I had somebody like freaking out about, oh, you see, this is how church, this is. I was like, but the story's not true. Matter of fact, have you seen the picture of the homeless guy? It's an actual homeless guy. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's the mentality that when somebody looks different, they're not like you, you know, and I know we use homeless people a lot, and I hate to do that, but I want to say let's be more realistic. Somebody that looks just like me, you and me, that's an atheist. You know,
yeah.
Like let's use example Jack. I mean, you know, he goes and he says, "I'm an atheist agnostic." How is he going to be treated?
Right.
Know? I mean, we're not even talking about like, you know, we had a whole youth group of skater kids at Ocean View. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
that's because you let a rail that kinked rail.
Yeah,
and you had that kicker out there.
Yeah, I put stuff out there for y'all to skate on purpose.
Yeah. So we couldn't skate on the church parking lot.
Yeah, we had to skate in the street.
Yeah.
But I did it anyways. I didn't care. But I didn't see them as like hoodlums, like, oh, they're hoodlums, they're going to tear something up. I saw them as kids who was just trying to find a place to be safe and have fun, you know? And that's what we offered them. And other people they looked just like their kids, like the people that went to that church, their kids. I mean, like, we had one guy, Matt, he hung out with all y'all. You know, he looked like all y'all, but they all accepted him because his parents went there. But because y'all's parents didn't go there, they're like, well, we really don't need y'all.
Yeah.
I felt like it was more of a money thing anyways. They're taking all our resources. But what do you expect? And I guess get back to the point, what do you expect people on the outside to view us as? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, how are we supposed to be one anothering, having togetherness? And all we ever show is division. And like we were saying, like the church membership thing. Mm-hmm. You know, if we start at like Justin said, the grassroots of it all. If we go grassroots with this and say, okay, are you a Christian based on, let's just say, Romans 10, 9, and 10? All right.
Yep.
You confess Jesus and you believe in your heart. You know, you did that. That's the basis of your salvation. We can throw more into it with all the doctrine and theology, philosophy we want to talk about, but we just go to the basics, grassroots, okay?
Right.
You're a follower of Jesus. You're a part of the church. If we start it there and start seeing people like that as human beings who are imperfect, trying to follow Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. How do you think that would change people on the outside's view of what's going on? Just starting there, having that kind of acceptance. Do you think we would see something? I mean, getting past philosophies, religions, beliefs on God, this, that, and the other, just seeing each other as human beings, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that would help at all?
I think so. I think if you were to get past all the division and all the sort of, lack of a better word, crap that goes on in churches and the sort of bickering between people, and we have that unity and we see people as people and who they are and extend grace to everyone, not just people who look like us and believe like us and all that, but we extend grace to everyone because that's what Jesus did. Mm-hmm. I really think that would send a much different message than what the church is sending right now. And I think it would help, but it's gonna be a tough road because in a lot of ways that trust has already been broken. In a lot of ways between people of different groups, but I think it's possible.
Because I know we've talked to Jack about, you know, what would it take, you know, things like that, and you know, you can even hear in his demeanor when he talks about if I was to be a Christian or if I believed in a deity, it wouldn't look like what Christianity looks like. Which, Jack, I'm going to call you're wrong. Well, and I'm thinking and I know that's bad to say, but I was thinking that, if we leave it up to God
Yeah.
to do what he does,
Yeah.
and we do what we're supposed to, not that everybody will become a Christian. We understand that. But I think it behooves us to allow him to do more work and allow him to have more control over these things than we are taking.
Right.
We're labeling out what it needs to be, what it needs to look like, and that's where these divisions come. So if we just treated people like human beings, that's our motto, that's our goal, that's our vision, and allow God to take care of the rest. Do you think, like we said last week, we talked about like looking just like Jesus? You think we could get rid of some of this dissension, some of this division that we have between us in the inside and those outside the walls of the church?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of our goals. That's what that's kind of why we're here. Is to see the kind of dissension, those things, fall to the wayside, and to be able to come together and, be able to disagree, but still extend grace and have love for one another. So,
let me ask you this question too.
Go for it.
I'll ask it to the both of you, which I'm always asking to the both of you, even though I say I'm asking to the both of you. Our major goal as Christians, would be to see people know Jesus Christ as their Savior. I mean, that would say our ultimate goal. Okay?
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say in that same goal is to know people as a human being, to know and treat them just, if I'm not mistaken, it's love God and then it's love others, right? Oh, correction. 2 podcasts ago, I said a statement that in the Old Testament notes that it only covers once or says once to love your neighbor. And then I said it's like 29 times to love your enemy. It's actually 29 times it says basically to love a stranger, to give love to a stranger. So just a correction, but going back to it. But whether it's a stranger, whether it's your enemy, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's another Christian, there's this concept that God says, you must love them. So there's no person that God leaves out for a Christian to love, to treat like ourselves, right?
Right.
He even says, love others as yourself. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Right.
We've talked about it for weeks now. So, and if we cannot emphasize that anymore.
Right.
Yes, Robbie is making motions about me talking with my hands. Good thing it's audio podcast, not video podcast. But so you've got this mentality. Okay, we want to see them become Christians, and that's our ultimate goal. But how can you reach your ultimate goal if you don't first fulfill the secondary goal of loving them as you love yourself?
Right.
And I want us to really promote that attitude, promote that. Because, honestly, I still get it wrong. Robbie, you doing it well?
No.
Hey, Justin, how you doing over there with that loving others as you love yourself thing?
I'm terrible at it.
So we see that we're not getting it right? But does that diminish the fact that we're still trying to do it? Does that diminish the fact when others see us not doing it well, should they go, oh, well, I'm better than them, I can do it better than they are?
Right.
So I guess that's one of the things I wanted us to really... look at, okay, yeah, there's divisions in church. And we want to say church, people who go to church, we got to stop being so divided. I understand you have different doctrinal beliefs, different theological beliefs, your philosophies on worship. You have different worship styles, your music's different. Gosh, we could go on and on about the differences we have.
Right, and I think some of those divisions are good and helpful. And,
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
But does that mean we have to treat each other with... being non-human,
right.
Like you're a piece of trash because, you're an Armenian.
Right.
You're going to hell because you want blue pews.
Yeah, it's just whether it's very, materialistic things or whether it's doctrinal things,
Right.
People from the outside see that it's okay to be different. That's what we're saying. I mean, we're going to a greater extent here at Forgetting Walls. We're not just looking at divisions in churches. We're talking about the division amongst humanity and religion itself. We're like saying, hey, atheist, it's okay you believe that way. I may not believe that way. I may even think that it's wrong. But it doesn't change the fact that you're a human being and that we can hang out, that we can talk, that honestly, you may think it's weird that I say I need to love you and show you a grace and give you that mercy and compassion that I would want myself from you, you know, because I think making the world a better place is a part of our Christian duty.
Yeah.
And I said duty. But it's a part of it's one of our roles, you know. Funny enough, God gave us dominion over the earth. We should treat it properly from the environmental things to the human things, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
We should be taking care of everything. And having division, you know, is not a very good thing. It's bad, people. Stop treating each other so horribly. You know, at Forgetting Walls, we just want to, hey, can't we all get along?
I feel like it's what we always end with.
Well, it kind of is. I mean, because
that's the point we always come back to.
I mean, that's the point we're trying to make. And I think listen, Justin, I'll say this. We'll stop making this point, right?
Yeah.
When we have 1 million listeners. So we'll never stop making this point.
No, we'll never.
We'll never stop making the point. Because I think if everybody's listening, and look, we're not going to all agree.
Right.
I mean, we're just not. And it's okay. And I think that's why I like having Justin on, because me and Justin, you know, we believe differently, because we didn't really get into, we try to steer away from the very theological talks.
Yeah.
Because it would become more theological back and forth. You know, this, that, and the other.
It'll be a Christmas special.
A Christmas special? Let's not start.
Theological Baits with Justin and Keith.
Yes.
Episode 93.
Wow. We're going to make it to 93?
No, Christmas is a long time away, so this is...
If we make it to Christmas, it would be like episode 51 or 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
52 weeks in a year.
Yeah. Because
I guess we're already like 3 months in.
Yeah, because our first episode went out on the first week of January.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. We actually released it the first week of January.
Yep.
Yep, that's what we decided. We actually planned something and actually held to it.
Yeah.
And Justin, just to say in a sidebar, we are a model of consistency. We have done
indeed.
a podcast every week.
Every week.
We're going to have to work on a consistency of meeting. But we're going to have to do some things. But anyways, but kind of reviewing for people who have tuned out because we're a little spazzy. Denominations can be good,
Yes.
and sometimes are bad,
Yep.
depending on how you look at it. But we want those on the outside to look at us as human beings. I know you might not agree with our religious beliefs in Christianity, and you may think it's negative and we should get rid of all religions and we shouldn't indoctrinate our kids into religions and all these other things in life. And you may think we're crazy and we're illiterate and we're stupid and this, that, and the other, but we're still a human being.
Right.
If you want us to treat you with, and I'm going to say this, you don't have to treat me with respect for me to treat you with respect. I think Jesus lays out we should treat you how we want to be treated.
Right.
And I know people say Jesus stole that from somebody else. Well, guess what? If he stole it, he stole a good line.
Yep.
And we should live that way. Whether you believe in Christianity or not, let's treat each other how we want to be treated. Right? Let's live like, we can get along, because if you're a person who's like, you hate war, you hate violence, or you hate this,
Right.
Well, start living with the respect that you don't want to see that anymore. I'm not saying it's going to go away, because you're always going to have those people, because people are inherently evil.
You're driving home that point, aren't you?
I am.
I could tell the jackness that
Jack, you hear me? It's just, and I know we'll have him back on and we'll have to go through this all again, but but it's just one of those things that we're all going to see differently, and I keep saying this point too, but for those on the outside the wall, let's be together.
Yep.
Let's just be together. Let's
forget the walls are there.
There you go, because that's what we are, forgetting walls.
Hey.
Yeah, Robbie got it. We're just trying to erase the walls one podcast at a time. So, final thoughts.
Yeah. My final thoughts, kind of go on what you were saying. Denominations can be good. I think denominations, in a way, preserve different aspects of Christianity, and which can be a very good thing. And seeing all these camps come together, I think, would be really, really beneficial for the Christian movement as a whole. So, yeah, that's me.
I'd just say, I think this change needs to happen from the inside and then spread outwards before anything else can happen. The churches themselves need to realize what's going on, and that the churches need to be able to band together. You know, you can still have your church on every street corner, but, you know, just realize that you guys are all of one church. You guys are all fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that you guys need, you know, that we should be able to come together and help each other's churches out.
Right.
In times of need.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think that mega church mentality doesn't really need to be. Like Robbie said, we can have a church on every street corner, because I think you're all reaching different people. I mean, people feel comfortable around other people. Doesn't change the fact that we all serve and worship one God. I mean, that's the core value, right? One God, you know.
Or maybe a mega church is what reaches you.
Yeah, and that's where you can be. It doesn't matter. And I'm just saying you can be different, but in being different, realize everybody else is different too, and that if you want to be loved, you got to love them, and don't expect. And I think this is the thing. I think this is what I think one of Jesus's ultimate messages is. Don't expect everybody just to do it to you, so you can go out and do that to them. You need to be humble. That means doing to others first, putting yourself down, not like, you know, insulting yourself, but just being humble. You know, just going out and doing what you wouldn't normally do for others. You know, putting others first, so to speak. So, wow. Did not realize we were going that long, but we did. Yep. And I think it was a good talk. We appreciate Robbie being on with us.
Oh, absolutely. It's good to see you, Robbie. Hopefully I'll be there in a few days. So
yeah, man. Nice to hang out.
And maybe next week, episode 12, we'll be doing a recording with me and Justin in the same room.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll be together.
Right.
Just like episode 1.
It took us 12 episodes to get back to it.
Reunited, it feels so good.
That wasn't me.
What you talking about?
What you talking about? That wasn't me. That wasn't me. Wow, man. Like I said, Robbie, we appreciate you being on it. We really thought we would talk more about music, but we didn't.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll do it some other time. Well, in saying that, I'm Keith.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Robbie.
And we want to remind you that people are not projects. They're people just like you and me. So love them like you love yourself. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Forgetting Walls podcast. If you're subscribing to us on iTunes, leave us a rating to help us spread the word about this podcast. Remember, the only way this works is if you share your story. So be sure to visit the website and leave us a comment at forgettingwalls.com, or find us on Twitter at forgettingwalls and facebook.com/forgettingwalls.
Peace!
I find your lack of faith disturbing.